Hello everyone, this is Lisa from Wheelchairs for Success, Power Wheelchairs for Success. Let me say that completely. Today I'm going to share with you my life story, which seems to be a popular thing to do. So here it goes. I'm going to have a guide here so I don't get off track. Where am I from? Well, first of all, I was born in New York, in the Bronx, so hello, all those New Yorkers. However, I spent a few years in Florida, and then my family moved to a country called Costa Rica, Central America. So we moved, we built a house, we lived in a very small village, agricultural village, and we had a small coffee farm, and so that's where I grew up, in a very small town, people with not a lot of resources. They had some cattle and their farms, and that was it. Just small town, about 1,500 people, and then it grew, of course, through the years. But there I went to elementary school, then I went to high school in the town next to us, which was San Rafael. And yes, they spoke Spanish, everyone, so I learned Spanish as I was growing up. I picked coffee, I worked on the farm, I went to school, I was a Girl Scout leader for many years in town. I participated in our church choir, so I kept myself busy and out of trouble. For the most part. From there, as my mother's health declined a little bit, so I was working on helping out as much as I could and what I knew. My godmother taught me some tricks to how to keep things going with the house and mom's health and all that kind of stuff. So as a young adult, of course, I was around until my mother passed away. Then I came back to the States as I was maybe 28, 29. And from there, I started going to school, participating in my church, of course. And then I made a full commitment to be participating in the Catholic Church as a Catholic nun. So I ran off to the convent. So here I am. But I went to school. You know, we live a pretty normal life other than our ministry. I did go to school, of course, to get my bachelor's, and then later on my master's in social work. So that's where I really focused my time. My health started being a little strange around the time that I was graduating with my bachelor's. And then 2003, maybe, somewhere around there, I started having trouble with my hearing. We addressed that with hearing aids, and then by 2006 I was completely deaf. So that was good. So we did cochlear implants and we addressed that. So I kept on going. I did my master's. I went on to working in counseling and as case manager, all kinds of things, for Texas to Arizona. And then when I was in Arizona later in years, and around early 2013, something seemed strange to me with my walking and things, and I wasn't quite sure what was happening. But I kept on going, but then I decided come back to Milwaukee. So I came back in August of 2013, and then sometime around before Thanksgiving, I was just picking up a bag of groceries and something snapped. And I thought, oh, ow. So that's all that happened. Not a big deal. I did ice, I did Tylenol, I went with my day, did meetings, finished putting all the things away from grocery shopping. I went to the cemetery, came back, cooked dinner, And then later in the evening, yeah, I was hurting a bit, so I did more ice and did some heat and went to bed. I went to bed early. And then I woke up at 3 in the morning and I really had to go. So I stood up. I screamed when I stood on my feet. It was absolutely excruciating. So then I held myself and I was okay. I scooted over to the bathroom, sat down, screamed. My housemate did not hear me at all. And I couldn't go. So I got up, I screamed. It was just pain I cannot describe. So anyway, I just kind of shuffled back to my room. And when I got back, I just could not reach the bed. I just crashed in my recliner, screamed again. And then I sat there in the dark at 3:30 in the morning. Until it was morning, I finally was able to get a hold of somebody and explain to them that I had lost feeling from the waist down. So they took me to the hospital and my journey started right then and there. So I was in the hospital for 2.5 weeks. I did go to intensive rehab and was able to kind of get back on my feet again. It was painful. From the hospital, they sent me home with a manual wheelchair, and so I started working, home exercises, going to rehab, and back again, and so walking was never the same after that. It's always been painful, balance issues, so really strange, but I just kind of focused on doing life, and continued working, as a social worker or doing part-time work, whatever, I could do. So, but always in the area of social work. So recently, the last 3 years, I've been working as a case manager through health insurance, through medical insurance. I was on a crisis team and worked with people who had medical or behavioral health or both, and were in crisis. So that's what I was doing. And I did pretty well those 2 years, 2.5 years, but, something was odd again, and I was just focusing on the work. Did not want to deal anymore with this walking issue. I was just kind of screening it out. And then came the day where I just collapsed. So, boom. So, was losing feeling again, so off to the hospital. And I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. Then I was transferred to rehab, 3 weeks. Then came home, more rehab. Luckily, before then, I had been in rehab and we worked for can't remember, 20 sessions or something. And I was prescribed a power wheelchair, which was a little surprising to me, but power wheelchair was prescribed due to, the balance issues and the pain. I had also come down with fibromyalgia, which is pretty common when you have spinal issues. So fibromyalgia came on the scene. So now I'm being treated for that. So the pain has come down and I'm doing better. But I still, I use the wheelchair maybe 50% of my time, especially when I go out, because then it's more difficult to maneuver. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I am not SCI. I am not a spinal cord injury person. There are a lot of videos and a lot of stories about people who have SCIs, but I am not one of them. I am just have an unknown condition. It's neurological. We don't know all the ins and outs of it, but that's what it is. Neurological in nature. It's causing mobility issues. We've given it a couple of different names through the years. So I have a long list of diagnoses. None of them quite hit the nail, but we just take care of the mobility issues as they come along. I'm able to recover a little bit in rehab, and then I go down, I decline. And then we go back to rehab, and then I decline again. So we're constantly in that cycle. My last diagnosis and most recent one is paraparesis. I had never heard of it, so I had to look it up. Paraparesis, which is someone such as myself who can walk somewhat, however, can have the risk of falling and losing the ability to walk, and then goes to rehab, recovers a little bit, then declines again. And a lot of people who have paraparesis also have hearing problems. So it kind of fits a little bit better than paraplegic, because they've been calling me a paraplegic for a long time. I've never identified myself quite as a paraplegic, even though I do lose the ability to walk at times completely. I recover a little bit, and then zoom down again. So it's hard work. It's hard work when you have something that sort of works but doesn't, works for a while and then it doesn't. So sometimes I feel like it's best that it just be taken away all together. Just either yes or no. But that's just my feeling. My story now is that, I've been home for quite a few weeks after my last stint, and I've started to use the wheelchair less and walking more, which is good, but I watch it carefully because I just don't want to fall again. I just don't want to go through that hospitalization stuff again, but it might have to happen. So I have to be patient. And many of you out there might identify with me. You have a condition, it just doesn't have a name. You're not diagnosed yet, and you have something going on and you can't quite explain it. You have a lot of pain, so it's frustrating, Sometimes it's better just to know and to have a clear diagnosis and be able to work it out. And, oh, it's this. Okay, so for this, we usually do that, But in my case, it's like, okay, last time we did this, and it worked sort of, so let's try that again. So we did the same routine we did back in 2013, because it was a very similar episode. But I'm sure a lot of you out there who have not been diagnosed, who don't have a clear diagnosis, that it's frustrating, and people look at you sideways or in a weird way, and they kind of think, well, is she making it up? So probably a lot of you out there identify with me. Those of you who have SCIs, the spinal cord injuries, spinal cord issues, that's clear. Okay, spinal cord. We know what to do with that most of the time. There's a lot of things that we don't know yet about the neurological system in the human nature. And we're still doing research, we're still trying to figure it out, and it's not easy. It's not easy. So I'm one of those who is kind of a mystery, and we just work on the condition as it is, where it's at, what it's doing, and we treat it the best way possible. It's unpredictable, so it's difficult to know what tomorrow's going to be, or next week, or in a month. It's just a pain. So, but that's the way it is. That's my life, and I continue to have that social justice bent on me, which is good. It's in my blood, and somehow I'll use it from here on. Right now, I'm just kind of in between and just trying to figure out what I'm going to do. But one of the reasons why I started this channel was because I realized in my research and trying to learn about power wheelchairs was that there wasn't a whole lot of information from the user's perspective about power wheelchairs. Now, why is this important? Because, one, because a therapist is not going to be able to say everything in your appointments. They're going to miss some things. And they're not going to have all the time in the world to walk with you and show you all the details and everything you need to know. They won't have time, and that's unfortunate. You can't take your therapist home. So that's out. So the other thing that is important is to have something out there that you can go to a site and say, oh, here, power wheelchairs. Let's see, what things do I need to remember? What things do I need to know? What things do I need to consider? For power wheelchairs. There's a lot of information for manual wheelchairs, and kudos to everyone out there who has put out videos about manual wheelchairs. There's just a lot of it out there, and I'm assuming statistically that manual wheelchairs are prescribed more than power wheelchairs. So that's why there's more info out there on the web about manual wheelchairs and how to handle them, how to take care of them, how to clean them, how to be safe with them, and not so much for power wheelchairs. So that is my objective, that the things that I learn about my power wheelchair, that I put it on the web so that it's available. So that it's available to us that were prescribed a manual power wheelchair. Sorry. Getting the two mixed up now. But, power wheelchairs are heavier. We have to clean them differently. Our tires are different. The tricks and skills that we need are different than the manual wheelchairs. We can't pop a wheelie. So I have nothing against manual wheelchairs. I think they're great. They're awesome. I think people look so strong and they look elegant. It's kind of like a dance you're doing with the manual wheelchair. I love to watch the videos. And I've learned some things about, using a wheelchair from the manual wheelchair videos. So that has been helpful. But then this other information about power wheelchairs and what kind of things I needed to know just wasn't available. My therapist didn't have a whole lot of time to go through everything. I didn't certainly have a whole lot of training, to zero training, until I was in rehab this last time that we did a little bit of training with the power wheelchair. And it's not that complicated other than charging the battery and, moving the joystick. But there are details, and you'll see in my videos the suggestions I give in terms of caring for the power wheelchair, using it at home, using it outdoors. It's different, and the skills need to be there to be able to use it for your benefit. So other than telling my story, this is my background, who I am, and how things happened to me, how I ended up with a power wheelchair. And a lot of it is due to pain. My levels of pain do get very high, so the power wheelchair is a godsend. I don't know, I'd probably be in bed more times than not. So I am very grateful for it. Sometimes a little difficult to get transportation, but we're working on that. So this is my story. I'm sticking to it. I'm hoping that it is helpful for those who are non-CSIs, that do not have a spinal cord injury, and those who are still waiting for a diagnosis or are just non-diagnosed and have a mysterious neurological issue. I'm hoping that is helpful to you. And this page, I'm hoping that this channel on YouTube will have information in regards to power wheelchairs that's helpful to you. And if there's something specific that you would like to know, that I did not cover, that I did not address, that I did not talk about, let me know. Post something down below and, we can cover that. I have some new equipment now, so I might be able to take you with me and do some filming outside or around the house and show some other skills that I've learned with the power wheelchair that might be helpful to you or to a loved one. So this is all based on my life with a power wheelchair. It might not apply to you, but it might be helpful. But if there's something that we want to start putting together, please let me know, and we'll put it out there. And this will be the channel where, as a community, we work on details of the power wheelchair, and perhaps therapists want to do something jointly, or if you're an organization or an individual, we can do something together. So I'm very open to that. So I'm hoping that my story is encouraging, that you know that you're not alone, that there are people out there without a diagnosis and with a very unpredictable condition from day to day. So let's connect and let's support each other. All right. Take care. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.